welcome to tonight's Empower Inspire, and we're joined by Michelle Cowan. I'm Kerry from Empower. Most of you will know me by now anyway. So we're just going to chat tonight to Michelle, hear a bit more about her career and what she's up to now. So I'll hand over to Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I think, so I stalked you up in the Yorkshire Post and thought, I need to hear this woman's story about how she's got to doing what she's doing. So tell us a bit about your kind of early career and how you've ended up ditching the corporate career ladder and doing your own thing.
Okay, well, we're going a long way back now because I'm actually 52. So, yeah, I mean, I've always worked. When I was 14, I had a job. I used to sell fruit and vegetable on a market stall in Huddersfield. When I was 17, I got a second job. So that was, working behind a bar in a pub. I got a third job waiting on at a friend's parents' restaurant. So I've always kind of worked. I did my O-levels, which they were back then. Then I went on to do my A-levels and failed 2 out of the 3. I went through clearing then to go to uni. Now, I'll say uni loosely because at the time it was a college of further education. And it was the only way that I could kind of get away from home and do a degree. So it was like the lowest of the low entry into uni. So off I went to Hull to do this business studies degree. And, I just kind of found myself there. I still had no idea what I wanted to do, but I'd done business studies A-level and I did business studies in my degree. Every summer I used to just get on a coach and go down to Newquay and work in this 5-star hotel. And, I'd be working 6 days a week in the hotel, 2 nights a week in a nightclub, and my 7th day, which was my day off, covering for a friend that worked in a curry house. And so I've always had that kind of work ethic and wanting to earn money, have my own money. The kind of downside was that when I went out to get a job 4 years later, I got all these communication skills, but back then everybody was asking for like competencies around the office. Could you transfer a telephone call and work a fax machine and one of these like huge printers that printed on A3 and stuff. So I didn't, at the time I thought I didn't have a lot to offer. Looking back now, I'd been in all these customer service jobs where I was dealing with people constantly. And I was really good at it. Yeah. I just didn't know that at the time. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. When I graduated, I'd got a 2-1 honours degree. I'd spent my 3rd year in Denmark at a university there doing international economics and finance. I'd got everything on paper because I'd finally got my head around studying. But in terms of skills and going out to the workplace, I just didn't know what I'd got, how to package it up, and also didn't know what I wanted to do. So at the time, I moved back to my parents' house and I signed on. And they offered, it was at the time when government were trying to get people into work, which they always are, but this particular offer was, if you went to do some work experience, you got an extra £10 a week. So I thought, I'll do this. So I ended up working for an Israeli-owned company in Leeds that made and sold personal computers. I'd really had no exposure to IT at this point, other than, wandering into the library at uni and putting a floppy disk in and doing my word processing sort of thing. So I got kind of exposed to the IT industry there, and it was a bit like a baptism of fire, just because of the environment that was in. It was really fast paced, and I'd never kind of experienced anything like it. They kind of put me in a sales and marketing role, me thinking that I would be leaning more towards the marketing, but what I actually discovered was that I was quite good on the phone, and I liked meeting people, and when people came into the office, it was always me that met them. If there was a trade show, it was always me that went. It had moved on from then. So from work experience, they offered me a job and I took it. So I'm still in my early 20s now, but a year later, I pack it all in and follow my boyfriend, who is now my husband, to his job in America. So he was selling, he was a manager of a team selling aerial photographs door to door. And he was going, and he was like, well, you can do this. You can just come with me and you can knock on a few doors and sell some photographs. So I packed everything in, much to my parents' disgust, got on a plane, went out to the States and was knocking on doors within 24 hours. So I spent that kind of summer selling aerial photographs, and I did quite well out of it. I didn't earn loads of money, but I always sold a picture every day, which kind of kept me motivated. Plus we were living in this beach house, so just you'd come home from work, you could go to the beach. We had a jacuzzi on the balcony. It was, I was living the dream sort of thing. Anyway, that came to a halt and we came back to the UK. The company that I was working with asked me to go back, so I did. And I carried on working for them, but in a more senior position. I think they'd promoted me to office manager, but really I was like the sales manager. And I enjoyed that for a few more years. And then my husband, well, my boyfriend then, my husband now, was working in recruitment, and he introduced me to looking for another job using a recruitment company. I mean, I'd never even heard of a recruitment company before. And they specialised in sales. And it was sort of at that time when I thought, actually, this is what I want to do. I want to follow a career in sales. I'm good at the communication. I like the work. You can earn quite a bit of money if you're good at it. So I started looking seriously for a job outside of the company that I was in. And I ended up moving to a really big IT company in Lancashire called P&P, which are no longer, but they were a big outfit in the day sort of thing. And I worked up the ladder there, really. I joined as in telesales, I went right back to basics, started in telesales. I moved from, cold calling onto account management, from account management onto field sales. And, I was still in my kind of mid-20s and I'd got a company car and I thought I was it, really enjoying it. Worked with a young team, and when we weren't working, we were socialising, and it was just fun, really. And then I got approached in my late 20s to work for Apple, and that was like a dream job for me because Steve Jobs had just returned to Apple. For those that are not familiar with the story with Apple, he was one of the founders of Apple, and then they had a massive fallout. He went to do something else, but he came back to Apple, and that's when he turned the company around. So he just come back to Apple. They released the iconic iMac, which was the different coloured back one that, for those of you that know creative, will know the iMac. Yeah, and so it was a really exciting time, and they'd approached me and said, come and work for us. So I went to work for Apple, and again, I had a great time. For 3 years, we were just hammering on doors that were wide open because everybody loved Apple then. They'd gone from being this down and out IT company that was selling the odd computer to schools to this really cool creative company that weren't just supplying the art industry. There were corporates that started to buy them, which was kind of unheard of. So I had 3 years there and was having a ball, and I'd moved internally in the company. I was doing partner stuff, and then I moved to field sales where I was working with corporates. I was going to all these funky ad agencies that had swimming pools and bars and things like that. And then my director at the time he moved to a company called Cisco, which at the time, very few people knew who Cisco were, and still don't, even though they're one of the biggest companies in the world. And he moved there, and he basically went on a 6-month campaign to get me over with him. And I moved over there and got the biggest shock of my life. The recruitment process was really tough. So even though I'd come on recommendation, I still had to have 5 interviews. I didn't really know what they did. I knew they were doing what can be described as the plumbing of the internet, which is the routers and the switches, but I wasn't that technical, even though I'd worked in IT the whole of my career, basically. And so I spent 6 months with my head in the sand saying, what have I done? Why have I come here? I don't know this stuff. It's too difficult. I was working with some super talented people. And, we kind of spoke about it a little before, but I had massive imposter syndrome. I was thinking, gosh, they are going to find me out. This kit's really expensive. The order values were like 50,000 to 100,000. And I just thought, I've been selling Macs that were like 1,300 quid. And now I've got to sell a little box that's like this funny green colour that connects everything, and it all goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And so I just thought I'd made a huge mistake. There's a lot of crying and just wishing that I was back in the comfort of Apple with this fab product and these fab customers that all loved me. And then I kind of hit a point after about 6 months, things started to get easy. Not actually, that's the wrong word. They never got easy. They got easier from understanding the product. And, I started to use what became to me the biggest virtual team. There was so much talent in the company. Just had to try and understand how to tap into it and how to work that big corporate engine. And whilst Apple's a huge company, it was nothing in comparison to Cisco. Cisco was this huge beast of people all over the world that were all part of your team. So I then started what was going to become the 17.5-year career at Cisco. I had both kids while I was working there. When I was pregnant with my first son, who's now 18, we didn't even have a maternity policy.
Wow.
Only 4% of the working population in Cisco was female. And we were a young company. So I think there was one other female in my team that had got a baby. And so I was sort of working up to tell them, I'm expecting. And they were like, right, okay, then what do you want to do? And I said, well, can I have some time off? And they were like, well, how long do you want off? And I said, can I have like 6 months? And they said, well, will 5 do? I said, yeah, okay, I'll take 5. What's the maternity pay? And they said, well, we haven't really got maternity policy, so we'll just pay you. So my first maternity was like, I got paid in full. I got commission on stuff that I wasn't even there. But I did feel the kind of pressure. He was born a few weeks premature, but I knew that I'd be going back in 5 months' time. Yeah. So lots of women struggle with that whole going back to work thing. I didn't really struggle with it. To be honest, I just wanted to get back to work and have a cup of tea without an interruption. And so I kind of got back into work and support of my parents, my husband, a nursery. I managed to kind of plough through. And then my other son was born less than 2 years later. By that point, they'd kind of got their head around the maternity thing, not fully, but it was a bit more organised, and I managed to get 7 months off instead of 5. So that was kind of nice. And then I got back to work, and like this happens with a lot of women that have children. You're on maternity leave and you've got this young being that is part of you, and there's this whole piece of reflection that goes on. So I had that reflection. It was, do I want to work full time? Should I go part time? Should I look at doing something different in the company? when I got back, my job that I'd had when I'd gone off wasn't actually there, and they sort of said to me, "Oh, can you just look after this account when you come back?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine, crack on." I actually was a little bit bored with what I was doing, and instead of me looking to think about how I was going to do less, I started to think about how I could start to progress in the business. And so my youngest wasn't even 1, and I went on an internal campaign to start moving teams and working in another department. And so I managed to get another job with a different team, which was selling into the public services, the police, the fire and ambulance. And that was great. Did that for a few years. And then I moved into selling into financial organisations. And this was just before the crash. And so I was selling to the then Northern Rock before the kind of collapse, and the Co-op Bank in Manchester, and all the kind of northern financial accounts. And I really enjoyed that. And then I was given an opportunity to move from our UK team into a global team, looking after Walmart because they owned Asda.
Yeah.
A few people.
Oh, I think we've lost you, Michelle.
Looking after Walmart kind of in EMEA.
I lost you then. Is everybody else still there?
Also looking after the Tata group of companies who own companies around Europe. Oh, sorry, Kerry, where am I at?
I don't know. You went a bit, it all went frozen for, I could hear bits, but not.
Oh, where did you get to?
Walmart. I heard Walmart.
Yeah.
Ah, right, yeah. So I got asked to move into the global team to look after Walmart because hardly anybody in the company lived near Asda, and
Right.
Walmart owned Asda. So I started doing that, and I was also looking after Tata, the Indian conglomerate. And then over the years, Tata became bigger and bigger. So I began working more on Tata, just in the EMEA region. And then we were looking for a client director for Tata. We were looking to recruit somebody in India, and we just really struggled to find the right person. So I kind of just stepped into that role because I knew the account, and I'd spent time in India, and I knew the Indian team. And you know, it's one of those things. Somebody gave me some advice at the time. I was like, "Oh, it's really bad. You know, we've got no leader on the team." And this lady said to me, "You know, grow up." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Just assume the role, just do the role." And I was like, "Well, you know, I'm not getting paid to do this role." And she was like, "Yeah, but when they realise you'll get the job." And I just thought, oh gosh, I've been so stupid. So I kind of did assume the role without anybody giving it to me. And then I just got promoted, and then I got promoted again, and it just became mine, and I became the face of Tata, the account globally. And we did brilliant stuff. We had year-on-year growth in double figures for 7 years on the trot. I had a really brilliant, diverse team all over the world, and I just loved traveling I used to go to India a lot, and I traveled to China, and I'd be in the States quite a bit, and it was just really good to work with a really highly talented team. And I'd sort of been on the Tata account for about 8 years, and I still loved the job, and the company had spent an awful lot on investing in me, in my development, and you know, on one leadership program after another, and I just felt like I was really, really progressing. And then we decided to take a family holiday to New Zealand for a month, and I was on the plane back, and I just kind of had this moment where I was like, do you know what? I've not got the relationship with my kids that I want. they were 12 and 14 at the time. When I was in this country, I was always at home. So it wasn't like I wasn't there, but I wasn't engaging in family life because I was never off my phone. I was submitting my sales forecast on a Sunday evening. I just, really, it kind of took over. And I think I'd had that month to reflect, and I just thought, this is not what I want moving forward. My eldest could be at uni in 4 years' time. And that time's, I'm never going to get it back. So I came back and I sort of daren't tell anybody. I daren't even tell my husband. I thought, I've got to look for another job. So I started looking internally in the company for UK jobs, but I was a director, and I just thought, I can't take a step back because that's not really going to work for anybody. And moving forward, if I were to go for a director's role in the UK, I'd still have to kind of give it everything and more. So I was socialising the idea with my husband that, I might start looking for another job outside of the company. And he didn't really get what was going on. And then we'd gone over Christmas and New Year. So this was January time. And then in the February, early February, a childhood friend of mine dropped dead on his mountain bike. And he was 2 years younger than me, and we'd grown up together, and we were still kind of friends as adults. And I was just like, oh gosh, like literally could see my life just going in front of me, thinking, how much time have I got? And the day after that happened, a friend of mine's son died tragically in a barn fire. And he was a month younger than my son. And that just kind of did it for me. I was like, right, okay, I need to find a way of getting out of here and having a different life. And so I then had the conversation with my husband, and he was like, well, you've got to get another job, look for another job. And, it wasn't as, perhaps I didn't articulate it properly, but I just felt he didn't get it. And then we kind of went to the funerals, and I literally woke up after the second funeral. I was like, how much money have we got? I need to get out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. And he just said, just leave, we'll sort it out. So I was able to kind of resign. It's not kind of normal to resign. Give us your laptop, off you go. So I had 4 months extracting myself properly. I said right from the start, I want to leave, don't try and keep me, but I do want to leave with grace and dignity, and that's what I did. And I had a massive leaving party, and yeah, I've never looked back. So that's the kind of corporate story.
That's, puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Very quickly when life-changing events like that happen, I guess. But how did you kind of, when you left then and you had your party, did you have a plan? What were you going to do?
I actually, everybody was sort of saying to me, what are you going to do? And I said, I'll probably retire. I was 48, which was ridiculous. I wasn't going to retire, but I just needed to not have something to think about. So I had a business coach when I was at Cisco as part of my kind of role. And when I was thinking about leaving, I'd sort of said to her, I'm thinking about going, blah, blah, blah. And she said to me, don't rush into another job. If you can afford it, take some time. You need to give yourself some space to think. And so I'd always wanted a dog. We grew up with dogs, but my husband's not a dog person. And the kids weren't really that bothered. My youngest was probably more pro it than my eldest. And literally just 2 weeks before I left the job, my friend said, there's this dog, this family want to get rid of it. What do you think? I said, oh, send me the pictures. Anyway, 8 days after I left, he arrived. And it was this 10-month-old silly spaniel that needed a lot of attention because he'd been kept outside in a kind of pen for his life. And so he became my focus. I went on some family holidays. I spent time with the kids. I thought it was all going to be, we're going to do all this stuff as a family and the kids. Actually, my kids were 12 and 14 and they didn't really want to sit down and play with me. They wanted to be off doing their own stuff with the mates. So I kind of had this kind of agreement with myself and my husband that I would take the summer off. And then in September, I'd look for a job. And September came and went, and October came and went. And I was getting calls from companies like Cisco, so Cisco competitors, saying, come and work for us, we'll give you X more money. These are the benefits. I said, I'm not interested. It's the same job with a different label on it. I don't want to go back to that. I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I did want to do. I got offered some consultancy pretty quickly after I'd left. And so I did the odd day for a few companies, and I ended up getting some business, which was 2 days a month of consulting for a company over in Manchester, which I did for a year, which was, it kept things kind of going. But I always wanted my own business. And I had an idea for an app, which is now Socialsendr, which is my app that we sell. It wasn't called that back then, and it didn't look like it does today. But I'd got this idea, and I knew I needed some help with it. So I was looking for a business partner, and I knew I wanted a marketing creative person. So I was kind of looking around, and then my mentor said to me, I know somebody, I'll put you in touch with him. Anyway, it turned out I already knew the guy, so that was kind of easy. And when I sold him the idea, I did a presentation to him, and I said, I can't pay you. It's going to take some work, but I'll give you part of the business. So he agreed, and we're still business partners today. We don't pay ourselves a wage. We believe we've got a great product. We've got another product that's in development at the moment, which we hope to get out this year. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a roller coaster. There's a lot of downs as well as the ups. But one of the things that I wanted to do was just have something of my own and kind of prove to myself that I could have my own business and do it. And whilst I'm not at the point of paying myself a wage yet, we are heading in the right direction, and I truly believe that we'll get there at some point this year. We're going upwards. It's slow, but every day we do something that drives the business forward, even if it's just one thing. And I know that if we just keep doing that, keep pushing, we'll get there. So I've got a lot of belief in it, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wanted to pack it in a few times.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what is it that keeps you kind of motivated then? Is it that desire that you want to do this, or obviously you've got the belief in the actual thing that you've created too, but there's obviously something in you, isn't there, too, or whatever your measure of success is, that keeps you driven and focused on an outcome.
Yeah, so like a lot of people, money was the success factor for me right up until my early 40s. It was all about how much money I could earn, what that money paid for. And I went on a leadership course when I was about 42, and it changed everything. This program was all about understanding yourself, understanding your impact on others, understanding how you work in a team, taking yourself out of that team and looking in as if you're like the third lens. And over a 7-month period of discovery, I found a lot of stuff I didn't like. And I kind of suppose was teaching myself to kind of drop that stuff and work on the other stuff. When I looked really into what drives me, it wasn't about the money. It was you know, success to me is being happy, having a good home life, being able to provide. So, you know, I do want to earn money, but the wardrobe full of designer bags means nothing to me now. You know, I've got an expensive car on the driveway, which every time I look at it, I just think, oh gosh. And COVID's made it worse because it's there and it's not even getting used. So yeah, I've done a lot of reevaluation. I don't want the things that I wanted when I was in my 30s.
And really. you do some mentoring and coaching for other people as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's always been a passion of mine. When I was at Cisco, I did a lot of early in career coaching for females because there were so few women at the top. And in those kind of director and above roles, that we were bringing all these young graduates in. And it was a fairly mixed bag between male and female. And then we'd lose the females when they got to a certain grade. And when the company looked into it, it was all around women not believing that there was a seat at the table. So I started getting involved in kind of really the female early in career stuff. And I've mentored lots of early in career males as well, because, you know, it's not just the women that struggle with how they're going to get to the top. And so that I kind of started out with that, and it was mentoring. I've done a little bit of coaching, learning myself, but I'm not a qualified coach. And then moving out of corporate, it's kind of got to where it's friends, children that are either leaving school or leaving uni or struggling to move within a company, or can you help out with this? So I do a lot of CV reviewing and LinkedIn lessons, because nobody ever tells them about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And interview techniques, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, and I mean hundreds. So my friend's son's got an interview on Monday, and he texted me the other day, said, can you help me with this interview preparation? I said, yeah, go and Google the top 10 interview questions, write your answers down and call me on Saturday and we'll go through it. So I don't do all the work for them. I try and get them to work themselves. But I love it. It's so rewarding. And, you know, that kind of younger generation, lots of people have a view that there's a lot of privilege, that there's also a lot of anxiety. So, you know, what might be seen as a plus on one side, there's other stuff going on that it changes through generations. You know, what was a problem for us is not a problem for them right now.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky. I had 3 jobs at one point when I was a teenager. If a teenager can get a job now, they're lucky. Yeah. You know, they might get a Saturday job or something like that. But even now with COVID, with no bars open, you know, no non-essential retail, there's hardly any jobs, so they can't even get work experience. So how do you kind of
put it's catch-22, isn't it, when people want experience before they'll take you on? And yeah, I remember that part of interviewing early on for me was kind of, oh well, sorry, you haven't got the experience. I'm thinking, well, somebody somewhere's just got to give me some to get so I can actually, you know, say that I've got some for the next thing. You know, it's a hard cycle to get stuck in, I think.
Yeah, but it's very rewarding, and you know, it can work in a kind of reverse mentoring way. So one of the girls that I'm mentoring is a TikTok influencer.
Yep, we've had our session with Alexa.
With Alexa, yeah. So she's one of mine, and she's taught me how to use TikTok and what's going on in that world. So, you know, it can work both ways, and I find that, you know, it naturally works both ways anyway. If you're open to learning from a younger person, then go for it, because they've got a lot to teach us. Well, especially oldies like me.
Yeah. So, I mean, something I've kind of observed about you straight away, I think we chatted for about half an hour a few weeks back, and you then introduced me to about 15 people who we're now doing stuff with, and Alexa obviously did a workshop for us, and we're working with a photographer you recommended and PR company you've recommended, and you're obviously very well connected, so clearly have a value of building that network around you.
I know I'm really good at connecting, and I've got a theory about sales which some people like and some people don't, but anybody can learn the sales process. You know, if somebody said to me, I want to go into sales, I'd say, great, crack on. Everybody can learn it. It's structured. You've got a product, you've got a customer, and you have to work out the bits in between. And depending on, you know, what the product is, there'll be different nuances that are going on at the time, but everybody can learn that process. What separates salespeople from really brilliant salespeople is that ability to connect. You know, I've had a massively successful career, and I truly believe that the key to most of it is being able to connect to somebody, being able to communicate. You know, I used to waltz into boardrooms and I never batted an eyelid, because I always, in the back of my mind, I was thinking that CEO still has to put the bin out at his house. Maybe not, but, you know, they've still got responsibilities at home.
Yeah.
You know, they're not better than me. They're different. They're not better. And I've kind of always had that mindset, and I am confident, I know that. But if you can connect with people on a level that is not just superficially around the product, then doing business becomes easy. You know, you don't have to fake making friends with somebody, but if you can find some mutual ground, then that's great. I mean, we had a really good conversation because I really like what you're doing with this group.
Yeah.
You know, and you could see in me something that might be of interest. So that's kind of the connection and how it works. And when I came out of corporate and set up my own business and started doing the local networking stuff, I didn't even know that stuff existed. You know, I knew what networking was from a professional perspective because I was doing it in corporate the whole time. But I didn't really understand how it worked at that level with small businesses, helping small businesses. And my view is that it doesn't matter whether 5 of you are in marketing and 5 of you are in accounting and whatever. Competition's competition. There's room for everybody. So be nice and be kind, differentiate yourself, and just go out there and try and build relationships. And that really is the core to selling. You know, there are other products out there that do very similar to what my product does. But when I set my business up, I didn't set it up to make millions. I set it up because I wanted to create a level playing field on social media for small businesses. And when I say that, people believe me because it's true. And, you know, they go, oh, it's only $9.99. Look, the amount of times I've been told, your price is too low, your price is too low. I said, it's not. And we didn't come by that price easily. You know, we've spent months talking about the pricing. It's a ridiculous amount of time. But I would never get away from the fact that I wanted this fairness. You know, and we've got all these sole traders that can't afford to pay £500 a month for a social media manager or whatever it costs. And we've got to try and help those businesses. And if we can help 100 businesses, great. If we can help 1,000, even better. And that's when we become a sustainable business model that is actually viable.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, so well aligned to the values that, you know, that Tracy's built in with Empower and the group, and what networking is to our group as well. As you say, it's all about collaborating, not competing, and just helping and offering support and advice. Yeah, like you said, people buy from people, so that's so important in the sales process too, isn't it? So just sort of before we finish up, I guess, what's the greatest challenge for you right now as a small business owner yourself, in kind of getting to that next level?
It's traction. So we've got around 90 customers at the moment, which we can cover the costs. But like I said, we can't pay ourselves a wage. We want to be able to employ people. We want to build it up, and we want to reach more customers. So I'm doing a lot of kind of learning at the moment around how I can do more to many.
Right.
So at the moment I'm doing these kind of one-to-ones, which are 15 minutes, and it's great for me because we take a lot of feedback in those 15 minutes as well. We need to get to the masses. We haven't got the cash flow to get to the masses. So how do you do it? So that's a real challenge for us. Other challenges are bookkeeping. I hate it.
Fair enough.
And we've got a lot of transactions because it's £9.99 and it's monthly. So yeah. I just and you know, thankfully I can now afford a bookkeeper. Yeah, so I'm not great on the admin. I don't really like doing it. I've been doing some financial admin today as well, not the bookkeeping, but with HMRC. And you know, in an ideal world, it'd be great to employ somebody to do all that. I think it's just normal startup headache stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, because we're in social media and we have developer agreements with Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, we all know how powerful these businesses are. They could pull the plug anytime. You know, if Facebook want to change the rules, they can change it. You know, we got an email probably about 2 weeks ago saying that we had to recertify for something. And because I couldn't speak to the developers, I literally was waking up in the middle of the night going, gosh, what if Facebook cut us off? What if Facebook cut us off? And in the morning, I emailed one of the developers and he just sent me one back and said, oh yeah, I've just sorted it. It's just an automatic renewal. I was like, oh God, you know. So I do worry about the big companies like that and the power they have over us as a small business. But then I think when I've got my reality hat on, I go, well, actually, they're not going to do that, because if they do that, they've got to do it to Hootsuite and they've got to do it to Buffer and,
yeah,
you know, so I shouldn't really worry about that kind of stuff, but it does happen.
Pretty natural, I'm sure. So what would you, if you could say one thing to anyone who's, I don't know, thinking about starting their own thing or moving in a different direction, doing the thing that they found that's the purpose that keeps them, you know, what would you say to anyone who's thinking about making that move?
I would always say go for it if you can. And when I say if you can, I needed to understand what our family financial situation was before I could walk away from my career. I wished I'd done it earlier. I wished I hadn't waited till I was 48. But hindsight's a great thing. I don't regret anything in my career, but I do feel sad about the amount of time that it took away from me. But, you know, you can't look back, you've got to look forward. And I would say go for it. And I was interviewed for a magazine yesterday, and that was one of the questions that came up. And I said, if you'd got an idea for a small business and you had a job, you could still start laying plans for that small business while you've got a job. You could start testing the market. You could do something really small and just see if it could fly. And that's the way that I would do it. You know, just kind of explore what it might look like. And actually, if you've got something, if it's viable, you know, we were a whole year with a minimum viable product trying to prove that we had the right product and it was working, and it was something that people wanted and were willing to pay for.
I think from chatting to you as well, I would say it's that kind of start building a network and the connections with people, even if you, as you say, if you're in the job, thinking about those next steps and who you might need to network with, because as you point out, when you're in that kind of corporate world, you don't necessarily know that these things exist, but you're going to need them when you maybe make that leap into doing your own thing.
The one thing that I've learned though is there's so much support. If you're in that small business network, you know, just being part of a group like yours, there's somebody in that group that's an accountant, there's somebody in that group that's a lawyer or knows a lawyer. You can find that information out. You know, people are willing to help you, and there's lots of organisations like the LEP, the local council. They've got, you know, business growth people that are there to try to help you, to try and find you grants, to try and just give you bits of advice. There are a lot of tire kickers around that can zap your time, so it's important to find the people that can genuinely help you. Brilliant. But you know, I was genuinely overwhelmed in the first 18 months, the amount of support that I got from people that didn't even know me.
I think I'm finding quite a lot of that as well. So before we finish up, give you a chance to sort of explain a little bit more about Socialsendr whilst we're here. I'm using it, by the way. I'm one of your customers for my marketing business, and it's doing great things for me, just to keep it ticking, keep me visible. So yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what it does.
Yeah, so the original kind of idea for the app came from my beautician. So I normally have my nails done every 2 weeks outside of COVID. And I've been going to the same girl for years, like 12 years or something. And I'd given up work, and I was sort of saying to her, you need to step it up with social media. You know, there's like 3 salons down the road. They're all on social media. It's no longer a nice to have. And I was going on and on at her. And she said, I've not got the time. I said, you have, because you're on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook and you never off it. She says, well, I never know what to write. I said, oh, okay, I get that. And I can't afford to pay somebody. So I said, fine, okay. So I was trying to think about how I could come up with something that could help businesses like Cheryl's and others that were in that space that really were challenged around social media. And over time, my research has shown that actually it's not necessarily the time, and it's not necessarily the money. It's the what to write. This whole procrastination and wasting time thinking, what shall I write? So I started looking at awareness days. There's an awareness day for everything. Bring your cat to work, stupid jumper day, tequila day. There's a day for everything. So we started collating all those dates. And then we realised, okay, so on some days you've got 10 awareness days, and on others you've got none. We're going to have to flesh it out a bit. So we started thinking about themes. And just over time, we were building out content by industry. My business partner's in marketing, so he built a whole year of content on marketing. We got a student who wanted to do some work for us, so he built out the whole year on legal. We've got another guy who said, how can I help out? He did all the fitness content. So we use themes. So we do quotes, we do myth busting, we do fun facts, we do jargon busters, all sorts of stuff. And we try and build the content out that way. So based on your industry, your primary industry, and the things that you're interested in, how frequently you want to post, in the app will come up with content that will automatically post to your Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. It's all fully editable. You can add your own, you can change the picture, you can change the words. And, you know, we're providing some sort of consistent feed under your brand to your social media. So even if you did absolutely nothing and just set up the app to run, you would have a constant stream of posts going to your social media accounts. Admittedly, if it works for you, you're going to have to engage with it. It can create a lot of work. But I've got an accountant customer, and she's in Derbyshire, and she just loves it because she's the one that sat there for 3 hours going, what am I going to write? What am I going to write? What am I going to write? And now she's got like all this accountancy related content going out, and she's put some stuff in of her own because she likes to work with female startups. So she's put her own stuff in there. She's changed a few of my pictures for pictures of herself, and she absolutely loves it.
Yeah, I'm doing a similar thing for me. I think the marketing side for my marketing business, I would do the same thing, and I'd just sit there and think, I don't actually know what to put. I can do it for other people, but doing it for myself is like, right, okay. And what I've found in using it is that I can change it up, and I make sure all my things are branded and the pictures are consistent. But it's also got me going, oh well, I could. It's made other things come into the head, where I've then been able to share other content, or I've expanded on what was in there to make it something else, or I've related that back to something else I've done in the past and created my own. And if I think it's just it stops that block, doesn't it, of what you're going to actually put. So
that's exactly how we wanted the product to be used. Exactly. And this is, we didn't tee this up before, so
no, we didn't.
I'm glad you said that.
I'll take that fee afterwards.
And what's really difficult for women, and I would say if there are any other social media people in this group, they will also agree with me, is we hate putting our picture out there.
Yeah.
But if you're a small business or a sole trader or a freelancer, it's absolutely essential, even more so now because of COVID. People want to connect with people. If you're a sole trader, you are the brand. You've got to kind of get over this, having some pictures taken. We've spoken about this, Kerry. I have mine done professionally because she makes me look amazing. And it's one less thing that I have to worry about. But if you can swap some pictures out for pictures of yourself, especially if you're in your working environment, just try it out. You will get more engagement on those pictures than you get on anything else. Unless you put a picture of your dog on. Which you'll get loads then.
No, thank you. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I think we could probably chat for hours about lots of different topics and subjects, and it'd be interesting to maybe chat again and understand more about how your business evolves. And I think we're at similar points as well, from the sounds of things, in the sense of just wanting to gain that traction more for Empower too. And it's how you take it to that next step, and considering all sorts of grants and investments and things like that. It's a minefield, isn't it, in terms of what's available out there. So it's been great to chat. Lovely meeting you. And
thank you.
I'll stop the recording now, and those that are here live can maybe ask a few questions and have a bit more of a chat. And anybody who's watching on catch up, you know where to find us. You can comment, and Michelle's in the community now, so you can directly chat to her there, or tag her in one of the posts, and she should see that. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having me.